Hello, and welcome to this 10th video in our series about the North Node and the signs. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kell Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
I'm Julia Mijas in San Francisco, California.
And today we're going to tell you what it's like when you have the North Node in Capricorn in your natal chart, which of course means that you will have the South Node in Cancer. Hey, Julia, can you tell folks out there what the nodes are about in general?
All right, yes. Well, the nodes aren't actual physical planets. They're calculated points having to do with the moon's ecliptic. And the nodes cut a path of destiny across your chart. And the South Node, which is the blue one that we're looking at over there, that represents karma. It represents your past lives, or if you're not into karma, it can represent the early conditions of your present life. And often there's a lot of overlay between these things, you know, where we come from early on in our life can have a lot to do with where we've come from previous lives as well. Now, the North Node, which is the brown symbol that we're seeing on the screen there, represents what you need to develop in this lifetime in order to grow spiritually and to personally evolve more. So the way these two feel, just if I were to sort of describe it, into a little bit more depth and nuance, is the South Node feels very familiar to us. It's old territory. It's stuff that we're used to. And it's also stuff that we can get into a rut about as well. Now, when we interpret the South Node, we usually have to give a little bit more of a negative analysis of it. Every sign has a positive and negative side, but we sort of look at the South Node as more of like what we want to leave behind. Whereas the North Node is usually a little bit more unfamiliar to us. It's usually stuff that might make us a little insecure or unsure at first because we're so not used to it. But the more we practice it, the more we bring the themes of the North Node into our lives, the more we can feel like, oh my God, I'm really evolving. I'm really moving forward. I'm developing both personally and spiritually.
Yes, absolutely. So when we look at the South Node in Cancer and the North Node in Capricorn specifically, and I do love the lens of past lives, the South Node in Cancer can signify past lives wrapped up with family for good or ill. In some of these past lives, you may have spent your whole life in a single region, surrounded by nuclear and extended family, feeling loved, nested, supported, and a strong sense of belonging to a place and a bloodline. In others, though, of these past lives that you may have developed in a soiled nest, a dysfunctional family system, you may have grown up among people whose nationalistic pride verged into racism and xenophobia. Or you may have spent your whole life as a mother of a large family, having many children, and the raising of them occupied your whole existence. You may even in this life feel very done with that, or you might, as sometimes happens with our South Node experiences, feel that the lifestyle of mothering is so familiar to you that you could easily slide through this life by just doing it again. But that way lies evolutionary stagnation. It's the contrast between the good and ill past lives spent in family that propels you toward a life of independence today. In this life, you have the North Node in Capricorn. You must leave home, leave the nest, cut the apron strings. If your family supports you financially, or if they hold family money over your head as a way of binding you to them without actually loving you, then it's all the more important that you enter out into the world and find your own way. Creating a family of your own and providing for it can be the solution to this nodal dilemma. Your North Node in Capricorn shows the direction of your purpose, and that is to move towards intimacy, bonding, and trust. As an example of a North Node in Capricorn individual, we have the chart here of John McCain. John McCain was a traditional, family-minded man who rose to great heights of achievement and status while following his nodal path from a South Node in conservative and patriotic Cancer to a North Node in stoical, achievement-oriented Capricorn. With his North Node doubly ruled by Saturn, being both in Capricorn and also in the 10th house, John McCain took on an evolutionary imperative of earning respect and leadership through hard-won experience and hard work. He emerged from a Navy family and pursued a Navy career, hewing to his family's line of work at first. He was a prisoner of war in Vietnam for 6 years, during which he was tortured, but refused to betray his country. Very South Node in Cancer, right? And could have been released by following the military code that said officers are to be released in the same order they were captured. But he refused and waited his turn. After he returned home, he built a large family, that Cancer South Node again, through marriage and fathering and also adoption. And his North Node in Capricorn eventually brought him to politics, which should come as no surprise. It's very Capricornian. He built a reputation of being bipartisan and trustworthy on both sides of the aisle in a time when you could actually do that. McCain's reputation also sustained some hard knocks, which is a fit with his North Node in the 10th house, and anonymous smear campaigns as he strove to higher elective positions. He climbed to the top of the ladder, securing the presidential nomination, if not the actual presidency. Julia, you've got a North Node in Capricorn individual to share with us today as well.
Oh, yes, I do. And this is one that everybody knows. It's Oprah Winfrey. So Oprah Winfrey, we all know her from TV, but maybe a lot of people don't know what her early life was like. Oprah was born into poverty in rural Mississippi. You know, think about that South Node in Cancer. And she had a really, really difficult early life where she was actually molested and became pregnant at age 14. And I think this was by a family member as well. Her son, with whom she was pregnant, actually died prematurely in infancy. Now, this really reminds me of how our South Node can sometimes seem like a recapitulation of our past lives, really brought into this one. So we can move away from that old stuff and head towards some new experiences in our North Node. You know, so South Node in Cancer can be almost being overly entangled by your family, you know, being almost smothered by them in a lot of ways too, and having to get away from that. But at the age of 19, Oprah became an anchor for a local news station where her emotional delivery, and that's some of the talent of her South Node in Cancer, eventually led her to taking over a low-rated half-hour morning talk show in Chicago. And within months, it became the highest-rated talk show in the Chicago area. And it was renamed The Oprah Winfrey Show and expanded to a full hour. So in the 1990s, Winfrey reinvented herself to be focused on self-improvement, mindfulness, and spirituality. And there's some other interesting things in the nodal story there, because you can notice the innovative planet Uranus influencing that South Node, doing things really differently. And then there's that square to a very, very spiritual planet, Neptune. Now, she's been criticized for promoting a confession culture, and that really fits in with that Chiron, that asteroid known as the wounded healer on her North Node. That can be interpreted as evolving through healing. And her show has been seen as promoting controversial ideas in the name of self-help and medicine. So again, makes me think of that South Node Uranus contact. So she climbed in a very Capricornian way from poverty and obscurity to great wealth and success, you know, moving away from the family matrix that was, you know, dysfunctional and difficult and overly entangled her, and moving towards defining herself, you know, in the eyes of the world, which is very Capricorn. As if she couldn't climb any higher, Oprah went on to create 2 of her own television networks. So that's the North Node in the first house of Self in Capricorn, so defining oneself and climbing higher through it. And many film and television production companies she also developed as well.
Yep. Great examples. Well, that's our video about the North Node in Capricorn. You can find the news of the month on our forecast page on our website, pandoraastrology.com. You can also find out more about getting a reading, taking a class, or you can watch your free horoscope video. And until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye.
Bye-bye.